Apple is dead. They're giving up. They're going bankrupt. They've just decided, you know what? Everyone's better than us, so we're just gonna stop making anything and we're just gonna fire anyone who works for us. No, it's not that bad. Luckily, but regardless, it's safe to say the Apple sheep here is not terribly excited for this year's iPhones, given the amount of leaks that have told us more and more about the 2019 lineup. But either way, I'm gonna tell you why I'm not that excited and why, if you are excited, I hate you and you should stop watching this video. No, I'm kidding. You can watch this video. I don't hate you. Come on. Stick around. We'll talk about it and we'll go into all the details starting now. So essentially, it is near the end of April, and for those who don't know, if the iPhone production process goes anywhere like it has in the past, the month of May is typically when Apple starts putting their iPhones into production, which means at this point in time, they're pretty close on a finalized design. It means that they've kind of decided what the next iPhones are going to do, and for the next summer, Apple's just going to be building up iPhones in advance so that they have millions to sell, and essentially the features, everything that the next iPhone is going to be packing, has been decided on, and now it's just the process in the development where they have to figure out how to change the assembly lines and change the manufacturing process so they can make millions of these things so that when they sell in September, they'll have lots and lots of stock to sell from. Now, this most recent leak is showing that ugly camera bump on the back with the triple camera setup being all wide and squarish, and I get it. You know, a lot of you guys are looking at this and saying there's no way that's real. The Apple logo's all off, the iPhone text is all stretched, which we're gonna have to take a little bit of a field trip back in time and remember the fact that case manufacturers, when they get schematics, oftentimes make these metal looking, very rough versions of what the next iPhone's going to be so that they know what to design their cases around. We've seen similar leaks in the past with different sized iPhones that, you know, they weren't super accurate or anything because the case manufacturers, all they really need to know is the dimensions and where the camera bump is. So they don't have to be quite specific, but they do give us a rough idea of what's coming out. And with this picture being leaked of what case manufacturers are developing, it tells us some good things and some bad things, and also some terrible things and some even worse things. Oh my god, I can't believe it's gotten worse. But let's start with the good news because there's not much of it. The good news is it appears that Apple is going forward with the idea of both premium phones, probably the OLED models that have 6.5-inch displays and 5.8-inch displays, are going to be rocking the triple camera. So similar to what Samsung did with the Galaxy S10, they don't want there to be really any camera benefits for switching to a bigger model. If you want the smaller phone and you want all the same camera features, you will get it. If you want the bigger phone and you want all those triple camera features, you will get it. It's not like in the past with the iPhone 7 Plus where the people who are okay with having a bigger phone get the portrait mode and get the dual camera, but if you want a smaller phone because that fits more comfortably in your hand, you're just out of luck. You don't get a portrait mode. So they're trying to keep the camera features pretty uniform depending on the size. Okay, end of good news. Let's get to the bad news. First of all, the front. The notch is the same size, which was kind of everyone's worst fear for 2019 iPhone design. All these different Android companies like OnePlus shrinking down their notch. Some companies getting weird with the pop-up cameras. Samsung making camera holes and they're asymmetrical. And notches with the Galaxy Fold. So everyone's kind of all over the place. Apple, for the third year in a row, if this ends up being correct, is going to stick with that same size notch again. So from the front of these devices, basically that means you won't be able to tell a 2019 iPhone from a 2018 iPhone or a 2017 iPhone 10. That is, if you lined up the 5.8-inch versions from the front, they're all basically going to look the same. And I think this is a huge bad idea. They should have simply done what Samsung did. And no, I'm not talking about Russian releases. I'm talking about embedding the earpiece in between the metal and the glass, because then they could have shrunk the notch a little bit. I get that Face ID requires all these sensors, and I get that there's weirdos out there that like the iconic notch. If the notch wasn't there, the notch was smaller, it just wouldn't look like an iPhone. Oh, shut up. You know you gobbled up all this stuff if it was a smaller notch, because then that would be the iPhone looking notch. It changes the standard depending on what the new iPhone is. So shut up. I don't want to hear that you like the size of the notch and you'd get angry if it was smaller. You're confusing me and I don't like it. So stop saying that. If they would have simply embedded the earpiece in between the metal and the glass, just like Samsung did with the Galaxy S10, then we could have a smaller notch and a more iconic look for like, okay, you have the newer phone. No, you don't get a ton more pixels. It doesn't make a huge difference, but it's at least something us techies can look at the front of a device of and say, oh, they have the newer model. I can tell the notch is smaller, and Apple cares about shrinking the notch because they know it's a compromise for now. If they had it their way, it would be gone completely, but as of right now, the tech isn't ready yet to be be completely embedded underneath the display, or start putting motors in the phone to make the cameras go up and down every time you unlock it. No, Oppo, that's not how it works. But yeah, I'm quite flustered, as you can tell, and annoyed with the fact that the notch is not changing in size for a third year. I do hope they compensate that with an updated version of Face ID, because lots of analysts have said they're working on an updated version, and there's definitely a ton of limitations to Face ID right now, so if they're sticking that same notch in there again, let's at least hope they up the quality of Face ID to be more reliable, that can be faster and work from multiple orientations like it does on the iPad, and perhaps this rumor Quo gave us, which is a bit of good news, can honor that idea and honor that rumor that hopefully Face ID 2 or second generation is launched this year as well. He's saying that the front-facing camera on the new iPhones will be a 12 megapixel shooter, which is definitely an upgrade from our current front-facing cameras, which are pretty good. I've taken some nice shots on them, but hey, I'm all for a bigger sensor. That means more quality, but frankly, I don't care that much about the quality of my selfies because I don't take a lot because I'm ugly and I look at myself all day. The reason I'm excited for the bonus megapixels on the front-facing camera is hopefully that means Face ID is going to have more data to work with when it looks at my face. That infrared map and that dot projector can work in conjunction with that camera, and that means that Face ID will be able to work from further away than it does now, also work from multiple orientations. Perhaps this front-facing camera is a little bit more wide angle, we don't know. But anyway, Quo said we're getting an updated front-facing camera, which sounds believable, and I'm quite hopeful for it. So hopefully that points to the idea that Face ID 2 is going to be a thing, and even though the notch isn't changing in size, which sucks, Face ID will get a lot faster, more reliable, and better than it is currently. The other bit of interesting news is he mentioned that they're using a new coating on the lenses, specifically on the back of the new iPhones, that's going to make them not as visible. So this is more of an aesthetic choice, even though they're okay with keeping the notch the same size this year, and their competitors have showed ways to make the notch smaller. I don't know. But they were more worried with not the notch on the iPhone, but the fact that you can see the lenses on the camera bump on the back. So even though the camera bump looks quite large by these leaked schematics, it might be hard to see the individual lenses, which I guess makes it look a little better. So instead of having this giant square on the back and having a lens here, and a lens here, instead they're going to be using this new black coating that will just erase the lenses, at least for the most part. Maybe in direct sunlight you can still see the holes, kind of like how you can see the Face ID holes when you hold your notch in direct sunlight. But for a general viewing area, if you're looking at the back of your phone, the lenses won't be as visible because of this new coating that's supposed to make it harder to see. Is that something people were complaining about? I don't know why Apple's doing this or if this leak is real, but if it ends up being true, I'll be quite surprised that they put more time into covering up the lenses on the back of the phone, even though you made this giant camera bump, but not worried about the notch on the front of the phone. So, all I'm trying to say is it feels like Apple's not trying very hard this year. It feels like they're like, it's a software battle at this point. As long as we got iOS, we're gonna get people to buy our products. And they're right in many regards, but I was just hoping for a little bit more of an aesthetic boost this year so that we could see a lot of the changes on the front and not have it just be a camera year where it's like, okay, front-facing camera is better and rear-facing camera has 3 angles now. I was hoping it could be a little bit more like, oh, you've got the 2019 version. That notch has been slimmed down. I can tell. Those bezels are thinner. Now it doesn't feel like that anymore. It just feels like it's going to be another S year of like, cameras are fun, aren't they? You guys love pictures and videos. You're so excited. I feel like not a lot of people are going to upgrade if this ends up being the case. But still, what do you guys think of all this madness? What do you think of the changes and the potential that these leaked schematics do end up happening? I want to hear what your guys' thoughts on all of this are. So let me know what you're thinking down in the comments below. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.